Radio.
And live in 3, 2, 1. All right, welcome to Infiltrate Radio, and we are on episode number 43. 43, Biz. We're coming up on half of 100 soon, which we should start doing this a little bit more often. Maybe do like a Thursday recap. I know we've talked about that a couple of times, but
for sure.
I want to get up into the thousands here before long, Biz. So
let's do it.
We'll be 160 ourselves by the time that happens at this pace.
You'll get there before me, don't forget.
Right. So I'm Patrick Joanne.
I'm Biz LaChance.
And on the show today, we've got Mr. Chris Klee, why am I having trouble saying that? Sushi chef and artist. Sushi artist. I'm going to call you sushi artist, Chris. How about that?
I like that.
That works. Hi, everybody. How's it going?
How's it going? So I appreciate you coming on the show today. It was kind of last minute. We had someone, actually a guest, a musical guest that was out of the UK. But as it turns out, he was actually in Bucharest, I think it is, which is actually a 7-hour time difference. And usually the time we do this, it would be like 4 o'clock in the morning when he was doing it. So we're rescheduling him. But you jumped on last minute here and saved us kind of in terms of the guest.
Clutch.
No one wants to hear me and Biz just talk, Chris. That's why we have guests, so we can have interesting conversations with people. But as per usual, we talk about our drinks. And to anyone listening to the show, I know there was an announced in the beginning of the show during the reads, but any of the drinks we talk about, any products we talk about that we link to in the social media posts, please click on those and buy them. If you're going to buy them from anywhere, buy them through those links. It helps the show out and helps keep us going. So, Chris, what are you drinking there today?
So right now I'm drinking on the Sierra Nevada Wild Little Thing. It's a slightly sour ale.
Huh.
It's right here. It's got a nice red color to it. It's a little tart, a little sweet, but it's really great. I got no complaints on it.
What would you say? I'm just gonna write that down too. Sierra Nevada. I love sours.
It's the Wild Little Thing, the slightly sour ale. It's in like the pink and yellow can.
Is it a wild yeast? Is that why it's
I'm not 100% sure.
That's what it means.
But more than likely,
it's wild. Like sours are so unordinary. But it tastes good. Is it like fruit or it's?
I would, if I had to describe it, I would say slightly. I mean, it's not very sour, not super on that bitter note. You know what I mean? But you get a good amount of fruit. And you get a good amount of tart from it.
Is there actual fruit in it?
Berry. I would. Probably. Yeah, it's got to be berry or something around that. I would imagine. I'm trying to look on the can here.
I like that you're a foodie too, and you're like, it's a little bit on the bitter. You're describing it as if it's
beer connoisseur was actually his other title he was going to go by. This man drinks so much beer.
No, I am not a beer connoisseur by any
Yes,
means.
Yes, you are. So this guy knows beer. If I were to say,
I drink a good amount of beer though.
If someone were to ask me who are the two guys that know the most about alcohol, I would name Patrick and Chris.
Have you had I think it's K2's sour, the key lime pie.
The key lime pie sour. I probably haven't. My girlfriend probably has.
I drank it on a few 4 or 5 episodes ago. It's so good. It tastes exactly like liquid key lime pie, but obviously it's a beer. But it's delicious. And they only do it once a year, which sucks because I go and I find it and then it's out.
So what time of year is it?
That I don't know. I found it actually at a bar here, and they let me because they're allowed to do takeout stuff now. So I bought it like takeout from that bar that just happened to have it there. They didn't have it on their beer list or anything. It was just I saw it sitting in their refrigerator. I'm like, what? Are you guys not telling people that you have this? So I ended up buying a 6-pack from there. So I'm thinking maybe summer because key lime pie, summer, But it's,
that would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's here in I forget where K2 is. It's somewhere here in Rochester.
Isn't K2 Brewing? I think that's over on Empire Boulevard, right?
Yeah.
I want to say right near where.
Shocker! He knew exactly where that was.
I drove by it the other day.
I think I've been there. I've been there once, and I almost left. A lady was trying to sell me what are those little dogs called Chihuahua, like this crazy looking Chihuahua while I was there. I think it was my birthday, and she kept trying to push this. Hey, we're selling this thing, pushing a Chihuahua. I almost left with it too, Biz.
The Chihuahua.
Really?
Yeah, the Chihuahua. I was actually kind of interested in taking it home. It was cute, but so what are you drinking there, Biz?
So I have no idea what this is. Honestly, it wound up in my fridge. A friend of mine likes to buy really intense energy drinks, and by intense I mean like it's got like double or triple the caffeine of like a normal energy drink. So I normally don't mess with it, but I figured I'd crack it open and pour a single styrofoam tiny cup of it to try it, because it's got this warning on it that I thought was super interesting. It says, too much caffeine may cause nervousness, irritability, sleepiness, and occasionally rapid heartbeat. Not recommended by the use of individuals under 18 years of age. One serving of Raz, because it's the name of the drink, provides 300 milligrams of caffeine, which is more than 2 cups of coffee.
Huh.
Damn.
This right here. Raz. The flavor is
it good, or is it like
Galaxy Burst? It tastes a little like a little syrupy, like it's a little thick on the saliva. You know what I'm saying? Like after you drink it, like, but it actually has a very good like flavor to it for sure.
And you're drinking it after 5 p.m. too here, so.
Oh yeah, but like I said, I'm only gonna have the styrofoam cup of it because I think that's
yeah.
I got the old Wegmans water as well.
I could. What's strange about me too? I could drink friggin' a cup of coffee like as I'm going to sleep, like in bed, and still be able to fall asleep. Some people have trouble with it.
Yeah, me and Lauren do that too.
Do you?
Oh yeah.
I've had like problems. I think I talked about in this on one of the previous shows too. The pre-workouts, those things will screw you up. Like you take some of that, and I don't know what else besides caffeine is in there, but like it used to give me heart palpitations and stuff. Like
I don't think I've ever tried pre-workout or anything of the
you
sort.
don't need to unless you're
there's like a chemical they put in it. I've heard of it before. I'm trying to remember what it
the
is.
stuff that makes your head tingle.
Oh my god, yeah.
I think it's in this
Gets you
because
all
that's
pumped
exactly
up.
how I feel.
Yeah.
The B12 and like
there's
taurine and all that stuff.
There's all that kind of crazy shit in there.
Hey man, number one ingredient is carbonated water, so it's healthy.
Yeah, there you go. So it's
It's
hydration.
healthy.
Pure hydration. So I went a little bit. I'm still on my no alcohol thing here, but I went with this guy.
Are you though? Because that's
I am,
like a hit or miss sort of thing. It seems
I don't know. I just like him, like sick of it. All right. So
I haven't drank until tonight.
oolong shot. So oolong tea, unsweetened. I don't know if I had this. I think it was a matcha one I had the last time.
Yeah.
Tea, and then I found this thing too, which is weird. This peach
that kombucha
collagen water.
Oh, weird.
Collagen water?
It says peach white tea. So, I don't know. I found it in the supermarket, so I don't know if it's terrible. I'll let you know right now.
I want to know what it smells like. Collagen. It seems like does it
Oh,
smell
actually,
waxy?
that's not bad. What does that taste like? It tastes like something. It is a
Peach?
little weird.
Is it peach?
No, it tastes like a flat soda, like a Sprite, almost like a Sprite that's gone flat, but like a little less sweet.
I will say that the other drink that I had of these, I had another Raz, and I drank a styrofoam cup of it. It was called sour gummy worms. And other than again it having that other than having that artificial sweetener flavor aftertaste, it tasted super delicious. Honestly, it tasted just like some sour gummy worms.
Huh. All right. Well, so Chris, we normally don't just don't talk, and I say this every time, but we end up talking for like an hour and a half about the drinks that we're drinking, just because it's like we find these interesting things, and
you can go on forever about drinks.
Yeah. Oh, they're delicious. So, and that kind of is a good segue because you seem to be a foodie and a little bit of obviously you like the beer, but I think that comes from a bigger love of probably foods and ingredients and stuff like that, and because you're a sushi chef. Jeez, what the heck is wrong with my speech? I can't say that. Sushi chef. I'd imagine that your palate comes into play quite a bit. So, what got you into food? Like, what made you want to get into sushi making of all things, and go down that route?
Well, getting into food starts a long way back. My first job was in a restaurant. My mom actually got it for me.
A
She went
job?
on Craigslist. Yeah, it was pretty wild. So I had held like a few jobs, like not like a few jobs, but like a job before that, working with a family friend's father for like doing tree work and stuff like that, like dragging brush and all this. But that was like a side business as a kid that I was like getting into. But long story short, my mom went on Craigslist. She found this job out. It's in Fairport. It's a suburb just outside of Rochester, New York. Um, and when I worked there for a little bit, I was the dishwasher, and like that was my first like entrance into a kitchen, getting to really see how like the flow of things worked out. During that time, I actually ended up working at a small corner store around the corner from my house. It was called Henry's. It's still there, but it's owned by some different guys. The guys who owned that place were actually really shit people, and they low key sucked. But I worked with some cool ass people. I worked with like two people I went to high school with that like I really wasn't cool with the whole time I was in high school.
Hmm.
And like working there, like it was weird. It's weird when you go to school with somebody and then you work with them because like your dynamic changes. Like you guys have to be cool, and then like after a while, you're like, you know what? You're pretty cool, eyebrows. It don't matter. Nah, I'm for real though.
Yeah, yeah.
But like after a while, I was working at this corner store for long enough, and my buddy Justin messaged me. He used to work for a company, this large scale grocery store, um,
Yeah.
and they have a whole prepared food section there. Long story short, I ended up getting a job there working with them. And after long enough of just being around food, I decided to take a hand in the kitchen. And it wasn't until I decided to try and go to a full time position for this company that they allowed me the opportunity to try out their sushi.
Hmm.
And I got in there, and I mean, long story short, I fell in love with it. It was one of the most difficult things that I probably ever started in my whole life because it's just incredibly tough. There's so many different things to like understand. It's such a fast-paced environment, but at the same time, you need to slow yourself down and you need to be controlled and accurate in what you're doing.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you're going to be all over the place. You're going to be a mess and your execution is going to be all off.
And you're talking sushi specifically, right? Like I know that
Yeah,
that applies for a kitchen as well, but like you know what I mean, like in sushi specific.
sushi. So in cooking, there's something known as like I'm trying to remember what the fuck the term is, dude.
Mise en place.
Al dente.
Yeah, well, there is mise en place, yes, which is everything in its place. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly. I am not good at French or any of that bullshit. But I mean, yeah, your mise en place definitely comes into play, and like your execution of everything comes into play. Like if you're not prepared and you're not having rice coming out at the right time and like getting it cooled down and getting it prepped, like you're gonna have a whole lot of problems and you're not gonna be able to execute properly.
So I have a couple of questions because I've only made sushi. I think I've only made it once in my life, and
All right.
it was kind of a pain in the ass because making it at home. I mean, when you're doing it, in a professional kitchen environment, usually you're kind of continually doing it, so the tools are always out to make it, and you have your rice cooker, you have all the stuff that all the tools necessary. The little, I don't know if you use the bamboo rollers there.
Oh, this guy
Open
does, of
up and all that
course.
sort of thing, but.
But yeah.
But did they make you go through any sort of like a school or a class, or what was like the the way that you ended up learning about sushi? Because of all things, like, okay, you can go and just, let's say, make pizzas or something, or sandwiches, right? That's relatively self-explanatory. Like sushi,
Mhm.
you're handling raw fish, and there's very certain ways that things are prepared. So what kind of training did they give you, or did you already have something in advance before you got there?
So I think the best possible thing that worked out for me was I didn't have like a large amount of cooking experience when I started in sushi. So I was really green when it came to working with a knife and like, actually like taking everything in, and that actually made it a lot easier for me because in a lot of Western style cooking or versus like Eastern and versus like Japanese specifically, you and sushi actually, I mean, Japanese food is a whole different section, but sushi specifically use an entirely different knife cut. The knives are beveled on one side. So basically what that means, and depending on what kind of knife you have, because we have a couple of different knives. We use the slicer knives. We use our regular long inagis, which are the big knives you probably see people at the store cutting their fish with and everything like that. The slicer knives are more for sashimi. They're literally just a single edge, and they go right up the side. So they don't have the thickness of the blade at the end. So they go right through and they cut much more
kind of like a boning
more fine
knife,
fish.
sort of.
No, I wouldn't even call it a boning knife exactly, because they have another name for that too. They have there's the deba, and then there's another one which is like petty knives, which would be kind of considered, you use it for a little bit of boning, just kind of for that skill cut. But then the deba, if you had to break through something, you would utilize that to break the bones. But back to what I was saying, because I don't want to get off topic here. But when it really comes down to like learning the whole thing, I was able to really adapt to it. But I have to really give credit to two people that really helped me learn. And one of them, low key, was kind of one of my biggest. She rode me like no tomorrow, in the sense of like, you couldn't put anything on the table without it getting past her. Her name was Rebecca. She was my team leader when I first got into sushi. She was a Chinese lady. She actually owns a local restaurant within Rochester, New York. It's the Dumpling House. You guys should go check that out. It's super fire, super delicious, and Rebecca's dope.
Where is it? Where's the?
It's in Henrietta, New York. It's it's across from Southtown Plaza, I'm pretty sure. It's where the old Mighty Taco used to be. I cannot tell you the actual one, but dude, you guys got to go there. Super dope.
I might have to do that soon. I feel like I've heard the name for sure. I don't know if I've actually been there, but so she was integral in kind of getting you going with the techniques and that sort of thing.
Yeah, she was just one of those people who was relentless. If you weren't doing something right, she was on you. She was like, dude, do it this way, this, that, the third. And she really does like care about the people around her, in the sense of like everyone being good. And I'm not going to lie, it made me have to come into work every day on my A game. And I got to thank her at the end of the day, because coming full circle, now I'm in the position that she was in when I first got into sushi, and I'm utilizing all of the skills that I saw her execute on me, and actually what helped make me a better, employee and a better person who does sushi, a better person in that sense of cooking. And another person I would attribute it to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yep, that's what I was going to say. You said there was a second person too.
Yeah, another person I would attribute it to is this lady named Shin. Shin was this old Chinese lady, and she was a bad motherfucker. Just a genuine bad motherfucker, dude. Oh my God, dude. She does not work for the company anymore, unfortunately.
Good for her. No.
But I think she went back to China, and she's enjoying her time there. So shout out to Shin. But Shin was just one of those people who, she would go out of your way. She would tell you if you sucked. If you did some shit, she'd be like, boy, why you do it like that? And you're like, she's like, why you do it like that? You're like, because of this and this. You go, no, you do it this way. And then she'll just show you. And she's just one of those people who like genuinely went out of her way to also show me how to do things, and really took me under her wing, and like kind of like gave me a sense of something like, I want to be as good at cutting fish as Shin. And that's what I strive for. Even to this day, I still don't think I'm as good as she was, but I'm getting there. One day I'll be there.
So the restaurant industry is an interesting place, because you have a mix of like these people who are extraordinarily creative, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to things like food, but then it's mixed with this like I don't know how to put it without sounding like I'm being like the like salt of the earth. I don't know, like the people that like, because I was always in restaurants, always working in food myself, right? And then I ended up opening up, a bar restaurant eventually. But like the type of people that you meet in there are unique in their typically pretty honest with you regardless of whether or not the feedback or what they're saying to you is is nice or not. And then the the other thing is they're just kind of they tend to be a little bit more like brash, I guess you can say, right? Where they're a little rough around the edges, but it's great. And I think it takes a certain personality type to be in that. And like you were saying, try and find like this isn't to see it as this is an art that these people or these individuals are doing, and it ends up being this product. And I've talked about this on the show too, and this was weird. I think with Aaron Coster, we were talking about the product that you make, and I said when you're making food or you're in the restaurant business, people are literally eating your art, like they're ingesting your art on a physical.
So it's so funny that you say that of all the days for me to wear this hat too, this edible arrangements hat, right? Like it's a perfect one, like the literal like, art that they're eating.
Because some people get into like the restaurant industry, right? Or they'll start working for a restaurant, they'll absolutely hate it. I mean, again, it takes a certain, I think, type of personality to work in restaurants and love doing it.
Oh yeah, dude.
To the point where they end up like your I'm sorry, what was the first woman's name you stated?
Her name was Rebecca.
Rebecca, that ended up going on and owning her own restaurant too, to like love it that much to put in the effort it takes to actually open something like a restaurant. There's got to be a passion there for it.
Absolutely.
So, like, did you always have that? Like, were you cooking when you were a kid? Was there like...
Yeah, somewhat. When I was a kid, I like to eat. That was my favorite thing. I think that was part of the reason I became a cook, is I just love eating.
That's the first thing that me and this guy bonded over somewhat like 15 years ago. I gave him a taco and
can I tell the whole story?
We clicked forever. I mean,
oh, dude.
Just randomly literally on the street? Yeah, tell the story, because
okay, so
Biz made it
I
sound
go with
crazy.
my sister.
I was, but to give a little pretext, me and Chris know each other because he knows someone that I've dated in the past. Let's say.
Gotcha.
All right.
Not to spoil it, the story for you.
So well, it does. Can we go full circle with it? Or?
Sure, of course. Yeah.
Do you want to keep it? No, I mean for you.
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. So don't say that. All right, got you.
What? No, it's not.
I'm so confused. Okay,
just tell your story, man.
All right. So I go to the mall with my sister one day, and we're going through, and I don't know why she wanted to go to the mall. I can't really remember exactly what we were doing there, but I think I wanted to return a video game or like get a video game from GameStop. I remember that. So we went and did that, and then she was like, all right, we're going in here. And we go into a place known as Collector's Paradise, I'm pretty sure it was. And there's this skinny ass dude with this like chin strap beard and like little goatee and a fluff of hair. And it ends up being Biz, long story short. And I'm like, yo, who is this dude? Not gonna lie, my sister was a little bit of a floozy back in the day. So I was sitting there like, yo, what's going on here, man? Who is this guy? This, that, and the third. But we end up going to the Taco Bell in the mall. And I'm trying to drop my change to get like a taco because I'm like a broke 14-year-old. And I couldn't do it. And Biz was like buying like lunch. And he literally looks and he's like, all right, man, I got you. And he goes like,
literally give him one taco. It's like 99 cents.
No. You dropped it on there and you gave me your free taco.
Oh, okay. Oh, that little game that they have?
Yeah.
Okay. It was cooler than I remember.
That's what it was. And I was like, oh, this shit is lit. I wanted a taco so bad. And ever since then, I was like, Biz is cool as fuck. I like Biz.
So, but what got you into? I mean, I know you said that you've always liked food, so that solidifies friendships for you. Is someone gives you a taco, um,
Oh
and
yeah, dude,
Which the
I'm
deal
so
of all
easily won
deals.
over. Literally, if we have a conversation, we're friends. Me and you right now, we're already friends.
do you ever go over friends' houses and like do sushi like dinners for people?
So
I
only on
try to
very
convince him
special
to. I
occasions.
really try
Only
to
on
convince
very
him to.
special. I have to keep it very special.
Hmm. So
It's one of those things.
you're not under any kind of like contract to not work outside of it. You should freelance, man.
Oh,
I would do
absolutely
that
not.
for a party. I mean, maybe not right now, wouldn't be the time, but I mean, maybe it would be
Yeah.
the time to get set up to do it, figure out your pricing or whatever, but go to people's houses and do whole sushi, dinners for
Events,
people.
yeah. I have a few buddies who I've talked to about it before,
Hmm.
but at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like the full execution of it
Yeah.
for me right now isn't necessarily worth it. But yeah, one day it would be really cool to do,
All right. Do you
like
make
a
sushi at
pop up
home?
or something like that.
Do you do it at home too? Or are you so sick of it?
Sometimes. No, it's not. I'm not sick of it at all. I actually really love sushi. It's one of my favorite meals. But it's one of those things, like I said, where like I don't want to play it out. Like I don't want to eat it every day. I don't want to try it all the time, because if I do, it won't be special for me anymore.
Hmm.
Because it'll just turn into work. It'll just turn into one of those things where I'm just like, yeah, this is cool, but
Critiquing it and everything, getting sick of
yeah,
the flavors.
going way too in depth with it.
Do you
Yeah.
have the desire to eventually open up some sort of a restaurant of your own? Have you ever thought about doing something like that?
Well, yeah, I actually one day when a certain thing decides to move its way through the legality process, I would really enjoy to open up a small cafe featuring it.
Excellent.
Um, so I've had a lot of plans of that. Like that's always been one of my
Hmm.
like goals since I was younger.
What's interesting about marijuana too, like and the legalization, and I'll talk about it a little bit. But like, so what's weird about it is that I feel like in some of the states that have done it, because they're talking about federally legalizing it now, which is I think that's what should happen. Because the way
Yeah,
some
that's
of the
the
states
biggest step of all. You know
Dude,
the
what
it
I mean?
way
should
Like,
happen.
some of the states are doing it, like they've licensed it already to only certain companies, like the people
mhm.
already have monopolies over it, which I don't think is fair with the history of why it was made illegal in
Right,
the first place. Like
right,
you're continuing the issue, sort of,
exactly.
even though it's legal. It's like you've still used it to, in a way that's somewhat is oppressive. And I wish that the federal government would just say, screw it, it's legal. This way, the states don't have the ability to necessarily do that, and it really is like a open market, kind of like the restaurant industry. Obviously, you're going to have some licenses and stuff, which some states again are crazy. And having owned a bar and a restaurant, I'll say this: the biggest thing that gets in the way of your success as a restaurant owner or a bar owner is like all the red tape from the government. It's all the city stuff, the licenses to do this or that. Like, if someone starts dancing in your place and you don't have the appropriate license, they can fine you or shut you down. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
right.
especially with the SLA, the Liquor Authority, they're very picky about some things, right? Like, so if you do something wrong, they're very quick to come at you and tell you or fine you. But on the other hand, all the rules are so gray that no one really knows what exactly the laws are or the things
Hmm.
are. And so you start doing things thinking, okay, just your interpretation of is it I'm allowed to do this. But
Yeah.
there's no gray interpretation of it when they say you've done something wrong, if that makes sense. So you're left to figure it out on the front end, and then if they want to, they can at any point just be like, all right, here's a $10,000 fine that we're going to issue you. So I can't imagine what the issues would be with eventually opening up something with like marijuana, because I'm thinking, especially in New York, they're going to regulate it to the point of like
And
Oh yeah,
that
no
actually brings me to
tomorrow.
my question, Chris. When you talk about that you've wanted to do it for a long time, have you ever decided to look up like how business plans for some of the like thriving and successful, I guess things within the marijuana industry that are similar to restaurants that are successful in those states to like try to write a business plan to like prepare yourself? Because not for anything, I mean, New York State is usually a little bit more aggressive when it comes to like their requirements. Have you thought about kind of like jumping the gun, getting ahead of the game, and getting any sort of business plans wrote or anything like that?
Not necessarily. I've thought about a few different things. I haven't necessarily jumped the gun exactly like how you're saying.
Yeah,
More or less, I've just been kind of working on recipes and different things that I can utilize once it comes to that. I've been working on necessarily my product, not necessarily my full rollout of my business. And
right.
it's not just because that I haven't thought about that aspect of it. It's more that I'm still trying to actually figure out how it's going to fully take shape and everything like that. And until we see a full scale, legalization and a regulation of it and how it's going to actually take shape and how it's going to affect the business owners in that sense, it kind of makes it really difficult to deal with that, especially given that New York is different in terms of a lot of its legality with a lot of things. So I don't know. I'm right now, it's just up in the air in that sense.
Yeah, and I'd like to also just throw this out there. Just if anyone that works in the industry has any kind of input on what that looks like, because I know a lot of people are, as this is legalizing from state to state or whatever. Now we're talking about federally. I mean, there's definitely for entrepreneurs and the type of people that we tend to have on the show. I think it's actually a business model that most of them have looked at to say, oh, maybe I should get into that.
Right.
Before it blows up. But if anyone listening is in the industry elsewhere in different states or whatever that has kind of gone through it, feel free to send us an email, infiltrateradiopodcast@gmail.com, and let us know your experience with it, because I'm sure people would love to hear, and we'll read it. We'll read about it on the show here. But I'm thinking, Chris, what you should do is you should write to Mike Tyson. I know he just had his fight. But I think he's doing it in California. He started this whole like ranch thing, right?
Oh yeah, the Mike Tyson Ranch. I heard about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, where he's like growing pot, he's selling it. He's kind of like in that business now, which Mike Tyson of all people. But you should write him and then just show up at his door one day, unannounced, and just like, hey, Mike, you give me a tour of your facility so I can learn all about how to do this.
Wow, that'd be pretty cool. I'd like to meet Mike Tyson too. I'm
Did
a
you see
big
the
Mike
fight?
Tyson fan.
Did you see the fight?
I actually haven't checked out him and Roy Jones Jr. yet. No, I haven't checked it out,
Biz,
unfortunately.
did you watch it?
No, I didn't
Neither
even
did
know
I,
there was
man.
a fight, man. Like I'm.
I
mean,
So
saw.
onto our later topic here.
Wait, hold on.
Something less embarrassing than all three of us hitting on a topic that none of us have watched.
Well,
Wait. I wanted to bring something up about that
Go
though.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Did you guys see the Nate Robinson knockout?
oh, with
What's
uh,
his name? That one guy?
the
I can't
YouTube
remember.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
no,
guy. Oh,
I've
Jake
seen
Paul.
the
That's his
actual.
name.
Yeah, I've seen the knockout, but he's actually a fighter. I think he was like a boxer in high school or something. I
Did you
think.
guys hear the recent news?
No.
He's gonna fight Floyd Mayweather.
Oh yes, I did hear that. Yeah, I
Who's
wonder.
he?
Jake Paul. Jake Paul
Are
is
you
going to
serious?
fight Floyd Mayweather.
The
He also
YouTube.
called out. Yeah, it
Who
was
ca-
announced.
So he called Floyd Mayweather out.
I don't
I
think
would
so.
assume.
He called Conor McGregor out and said he would beat him. Which one, I definitely would love to see that. But
Yeah.
here's my big question here: is if Jake Paul beats Floyd Mayweather, does that mean he beats Conor McGregor, Manny Pacquiao? Who's the other guy? Canelo. Canelo's the guy who
Yeah,
fought him
so he would
too.
be
I
the
feel
the
like we
world
don't even have
champion.
to.
Yeah,
I feel like we wouldn't even
yeah.
have to go through that scenario because it's.
How does that work?
No, I think. Well, I think those disciplines are different. So here's something I feel about like Mayweather, because we had we had Willie El Mongoose Monroe Jr. on like a few episodes, 5 or 6
Oh,
episodes.
Willie's dope, dude.
So yeah, he's real good. And we talked a little bit about Mayweather and his like fighting style. And I feel like he's very defensive. Like he's got hands too, but he's smart and tactical about the way he fights. So I feel like after you've boxed for long enough that you sort of gain that experience and that skill set. So I think it would be tough for someone, just a random person, even like a Conor McGregor who's used to fighting, but used to fighting in that other style, you know what I mean? In like jiu-jitsu, to go in and just master boxing, because it's a whole nother sport.
Oh yeah.
You know, like I don't think you can it's so easily translated. Yes, both sports, like you're hitting the other person, but I think it's a whole different game. Like boxers can last 12, especially Mayweather can last 12 rounds and not be tired at the end because he's so tactical with how he's moving and that sort of thing to save his energy. Then at the end, just like with what happened with Conor McGregor, he was tired and ended up, knocking him out, which I think too. If you watch any UFC stuff, like I've watched like McGregor fight, what's his name too, Khabib, right?
Khabib is such a great sportsman.
Yeah,
man.
I mean he's an animal.
Great dude.
Great dude. He's a genius at the technical aspect of it. Like McGregor really brought like this highlight to the sport, right? Whereas like this big spectacle, and then I feel like Khabib is like. I mean, Mayweather has a little bit of bravado too, but the approach he takes to boxing is similar to like the way I see Khabib fighting. Like he doesn't care how it looks or how spectacular the end is, as long as he wears you down until you lose. You know what I'm saying? Like he's just an animal. And just if you ever see Khabib fight, do yourself a favor and watch a couple of his fights where he gets people to tap out, because he just like wraps himself around people and doesn't like, it's like this like your older brother, when you're 5 years old, let's say he's 10 years old, the way your older brother would just hold you down and not let you move, when you're fighting or whatever. Like he does that, but just round after round after round, like he just wears the people down. And Conor McGregor, I think that's why he lost. He came in there, he's a good fighter, and he's got style, and he's got like the bravado thing, and he can fight, but in the end he just got tired from this like constant like grinding. Khabib,
Man, from what I remember of your brother, he threw batteries.
Mayweather. What happened?
I would say, from what I remember of Chris's brother, he used to throw batteries like across the room. Like someone got out of line and he was watching him, he'd literally just reach across the computer at a nice like C or A battery and just chuck it. Like,
dude, my brother was so mean.
I don't think you're allowed to do that in boxing though. So Chris, if Mayweather and what was his name again?
Jake Paul.
Jake Paul were to get into it, who do you think? You call it. Everyone.
Dude, I want Jake Paul to win, unfortunately.
No,
I hate it so much.
How many rounds?
I want him to win.
How long would it go, you think? Well, he's definitely I think he would be taller, right?
Yeah, because he's a lot bigger. He's a big dude.
I think he's like 6'4" something, right?
Yeah, he's a pretty big guy.
Let's look that up.
And Mayweather is a little bit on the shorter side, because I know that like McGregor was taller than Mayweather, but Mayweather again, his defense and his like technical skill just outweighs how hard you're hitting,
So Jake
or
Paul,
even your
6'1".
reach. I mean,
he's 6'1", Jake Paul, and let's look up Floyd is who he's fighting.
Yeah,
he's 5'8".
I was about to say 5'8". Yeah, 5'8".
So you think
that's
it's
not
just
bad.
the arm reach, you know what I mean? On like that distance is such a difference. But I don't know. I think I've got Mayweather if it's a boxing match.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but I want Jake Paul to win. But if I'm being real,
you're terrible.
Floyd Mayweather's gonna.
You're a terrible human being. You're a terrible.
I do like the way you think though, where you're like, you know what, he's champion of the world if he beats Mayweather, because then
that'd be so awesome. Like I don't like him at all.
Chris knows nothing about sports. He knows nothing about the way the hierarchy works, the way that any major sporting event works.
No, because
skateboarding is about it. Professional skateboarding.
What would be really cool is, and I think this was kind of the initial thought of the UFC, was to make it like a mixed I know it's mixed martial arts, but like a mixed discipline, right? So you have like, I wish there was something similar to what you're saying, where there was like this world champion of just, let's say, fighting, right? And you have kickboxers, boxers, you just different styles of fighting. Everyone competes.
The World Fighting Championship.
Yeah,
or
for
something.
There's like, no, there's something like that.
Is there already?
There's a, okay, so
On
there's a couple of
ESPN
different
12.
things you guys should know. You got to look up a couple of different things. My buddy Justin was just telling me about this thing. It's like karate. Oh fuck, I can't remember. Karate something. If you literally typed in like karate fighting championship, it'd probably come up on Google. But yo, it's like these people are fighting in like a weird octagon style thing, but there's not like a chain in the back. It's like a slanted like wall. So if you back to the wall, like you'll drop back.
Right,
and
right.
like you can figure shit from that. But like they're literally slugging each other out. Like just there's no like judo, no jujitsu or anything like that. It's all just karate and everything.
I know somewhere in the UK, I think it's in London, somewhere, England, somewhere. They have like bare-fisted fights too, where this like, which I think McGregor was going to do one of those.
Yeah, that's
It
called
might have been
really?
Ireland.
You're not supposed to talk about that. I'm pretty sure that's
is
like
that
the
it?
first like
Fight
4
Club.
rules.
Is that what it is? So what did you say? 5'8"?
Yeah, the Floyd Mayweather's 5'8",
Man.
and Jake Paul's 6'1". So it's really, I mean, we're only talking honestly just a couple of inches, and Jake Paul's an inexperienced fighter when it comes down to it. Like that height difference would make if it was, you know, if Conor McGregor had been, instead of 5'9", he had been 6'1", and Floyd Mayweather was 5'8", I feel like that would have you know, turned the tides a little different. But the fact that we're talking Jake Paul, I mean, like, he's more or less a glorified pretty boy who's done a bunch of controversial shit, who has a bunch of followers and a bunch of haters, really. Like, when it comes down to it, he's just a major
the most
influencer.
hated man on the internet.
I don't know about, maybe he is, actually, maybe not, I don't know. Like,
He's definitely a good business person. I'll say that, because
he's good at marketing himself.
These fights. He's not even a boxer or a fighter, and he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna box these.
But
like,
I mean,
you know,
you pop off on the internet the right way. You know what I mean? He is a somebody when it comes to, and I air quote that, you know, in the internet influencer world. So if he says something online, you know what I mean? Like, major people are going to catch wind of that, and then
I also
feel
think.
like it can evolve.
I think it's also. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I would say if Chris threatens, you know, Floyd Mayweather on Twitter tonight, even if he uses the handle "Come at me, Infiltrate Radio," you know, I'm right here in the studio. You know, I don't think that it's gonna make a difference. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be
dude.
someone making claps or someone making
I got in trouble.
Let's say.
I got in trouble with Texas skate Twitter. Okay, like somehow, because my first like 2 weeks on Twitter, I shared a video and I thought it was like Facebook, where like the original person doesn't get a notification of your shit once it's past a certain point. And this dude, like, because it was all about like going to the skate park and not skating, and like I was just like tweeting into the void because I had like 2 followers, my girlfriend and like I think Biz. And I was literally just like, if you don't go to the park and skate, you're fake, fuck out of here, or some shit like that. And this man got on me, dude. And he had like, I think he had like 8,000 or 9,000 followers or some crazy shit.
Which back then was like everything, you know what I mean?
No, this was literally like 2 years ago.
Even
like,
worse.
I was
even
like,
worse.
dude, and he was from Texas, and it was a shitload of Texas people. And they were just being so mean to me on Twitter. I was like, why are you guys so mean?
I think that's Twitter in a nutshell, though, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
That's pretty much how Twitter goes. It's like everyone just wants to attack.
Oh, I pissed them off, though.
Yeah. And there's so many like bots on there too that just doesn't.
Oh,
even, you don't even have to pay attention.
I feel like there's more bots. You think there's more bots on Instagram or Twitter?
Instagram's got these like scam things going on too, where they'll DM people or they'll throw up stuff in the comments to try and get get people to do things.
It's gonna sound weird, but
a bit more just like straight up mean. Like there's just these mean people that just want to like get under people's skin, you know.
I think that that Twitter might have more bots, but I feel like Instagram's bots are a little bit more willing to contact you one on one. You know what I mean? Like
They're willing to get a little more up
they're
close and
willing to
personal.
slide in your DMs, but the Twitter, I feel like the Twitter existence, like you try
Chris,
to search anyone and there's like
Chris,
80.
Sorry about that,
are
guys.
we going to bed with you right now?
Yeah,
What's
like
going
what's
on?
happening?
Now we're definitely
Sorry,
getting
guys.
up close and personal.
Sorry, guys.
It's better this way,
That's all right.
probably.
That's right. So we did want to, for our listeners here too, again, if you have any commentary or whatever on our on what we're talking about or whatever throughout the show, just infiltrate radio podcast at gmail.com. We have a new segment we're going to try out. And Biz, if you want to pony up the intro music here, we're getting high tech. So this
Yeah,
is
so high tech.
we'll call it Biz's News Corner. Heck, we can't hear the music, Biz.
Oh no, stop. Why? My failure at what I'm doing here? I think it might be.
You're failing. Our
I think
first
I might be.
the first experience with
I didn't know it was
Biz's
going to play
News
out of the
Corner.
speaker. I have this fantastic JBL Charge 4. I didn't know it was going to play out of, but we'll bring it a little closer.
Welcome to Biz's News Corner.
Live today, the Human Torch was denied a bank loan.
Wait, what?
No, joking.
Oh.
Patrick is going to bring us the news. I'll bring us the weather, maybe.
Well, there's a couple of things. So one of the biggest stories, just because I'm a musician. Are you a musician at all, Chris? You play music? Any instruments?
No, I know nothing about music at all.
Just
Unfortunately, I have
karaoke.
a lot of friends who are musicians. I'm just gonna say straight up, check out Sachi SB on Spotify. That's my boy. MF Scum too. Check them out. Those are my homies.
Excellent. I like it.
Ishmael Raps. That's my dude too. All right. I'm sorry. Keep going.
So in music news kind of today, Bob Dylan sold his entire songwriting catalog for $300 million to Universal Music Publishing Group. And for those that don't know, the way that music publishing works is it's a weird system. So when you write a song as a songwriter, you write the song, and then the percentage is not divvied up of the performances of that song. This is going to get too complicated for people, but the way that it works is you get 200% of a song whenever it's performed. And when I say performed, that means performed live in a club, performed over the radio. Let's say it's just the song played over the radio, streamed over Spotify, etc. It's not an actual duplication of the file or the physical medium. That's the performance of it. So the way that's paid out is it's set up in 200%. 100% of it is the publishing, 100% is the songwriting portion of that song, right? So if a song gets played, the songwriter gets 50% technically, and whoever owns the publishing side of it gets 50%. In some cases, independent artists get 200%, so they own all of the publishing and all of the songwriting portion of that amount. What happens in publishing deals, and typically with big record labels, is the artist or the person who's written the song sells the publishing portion, the second 100%, to a publishing company or to a record company. They then own the publishing so that they can go out and seek to put it into placements for things or whatever, so that people can get paid. The artist or the writer gets paid from the writer portion, and in some cases that's divvied up between multiple writers, right. Or you can actually sell that songwriting portion as well, which the Beatles did. I think Michael Jackson bought a bunch of their stuff back in the day.
A huge portion, yeah, back in the 90s.
So what's really surprising about this is Bob Dylan, of all people, who's kind of been a political or a more politically active musician, turned around and sold his entire songwriting catalog, including the songwriting portion, so not just the publishing, but the songwriting, to Universal for $300 million.
Wow.
Wow.
So I guess my first thought about that, or first reaction to that, was he's broke. I don't know if that was the first thing that you guys thought.
I kind of thought, not necessarily maybe that he's broke, but maybe that he's comfortable with a certain let's say, level of living. Let's say, for instance, he's comfortable living at $2 million a year, and he's got $12 million, but he's expecting to live on for another 15 years, 30 years, right? Like he might need something to get him through, and he's like, I'm not going to sing, I'm not going to perform, I'm not going to make those royalties that I once did. It might be better off to
Is Bob Dylan retired?
let it go and let it be remastered and let it be so on, and
How old is he?
super duper.
He's 79.
Okay, yeah, so that makes sense.
He's like president age. He's not even that old.
79.
Yep, 79. So I guess
Yeah. When I'm 79, I'm making moves for the future of like my family and stuff. I'm not making moves for me.
Right. I mean, he probably sold it for the 300 million to ensure that the family can properly use and invest that money going forward.
What's interesting,
300 million again.
He's actually still, I guess he was gonna try and tour 2020.
Wow.
Which means he's not retired, but maybe he chose to do it now, just because there's like the next couple of years, who knows what that's going to look like, right?
Right.
Until COVID's kind of out of the picture.
Maybe he's got COVID and he's keeping it secret.
I agree with you, though, Biz. Yeah, go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. Sorry, my bad.
Well, what I was going to say was I think that probably that's what's happening. Like as he's no longer really touring a lot and his songs are played probably less and less as time goes on.
Right.
His income has probably gone down. So he's like, yeah, screw it. If I can sell this whole book of songs. I mean, my thought would be, though.
And it's not like he's selling it to, an individual artist that's going to, what I mean? He's selling it to a corporation, which sounds terrible and like a sellout to everything that most artists stand for. But like, when you become an artist to a level that I guess your work needs to be cataloged and archived because of its influence into the music or film or whatever, entertainment outlet it is. I think once you get to that level, selling it to a corporation that's going to properly preserve it and remaster it and properly archive, all that stuff, I think it's not necessarily a bad move, especially like Chris said, he's probably doing it to protect his future children and generations going forward. Not his future children, but his future generations and his children and things like that.
Do you think, though, that it would be more valuable to to pass on the songwriting
royalties or what have you?
Just like as a steady income, or the 300 million?
I don't know anything about his like offspring, like if they're into music or anything, but if they don't want to deal with the entertainment industry, if that's something that like they watch their dad navigate through and deal with and everything, and they want no part of it, they just would prefer to have the songs, have the the memories, have the money, and move on and do something else. You know what I mean? If they want to be real estate agents, let's say, or anything, and they just don't care about entertainment in any, facet whatsoever, they might just want to cut ties with it. And 300 million's worth it potentially to the family if the family did make that decision, because I mean, like, you know what I mean? They didn't write the songs. They didn't put in the work necessarily. They just,
what would you do, Chris, if you had Bob Dylan's breadth of work, that you created, your own creation? You made the sushi. You made a book of different types of sushi that was yours and yours alone.
Pioneered a new type of sushi making and a new type of sushi flavor and concoction. And
would you sell it for a certain amount, or what would be your stipulation?
All right, so here's my thing, and this goes for like the whole Bob Dylan thing is, and I guess it necessarily wouldn't play true with me having my own, like new technique or something that could transcend that. But if it like in that sense, when you really think about musicians, right? Bob Dylan's, you said, like 79 years old. I don't know what his children's status is and everything like that. But I mean, like,
find out.
how many Bob Dylan fans really exist in the world, and how many Bob Dylan fans are going to exist in the world 60 years from now?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it may make more sense to sell it off for that amount of money when it's worth that amount of money right now, versus not to say that his music isn't going to have a big following long term down the road, but
No,
it's to say the example. How many singers from the 1920s do you guys listen to?
right. I'll say this as well though, but Bob Dylan has not translated to streaming and how streaming works very well. His songs are very long. Most people that listen to him, once they get to a certain point, are going to skip. And my understanding is most streaming services, you get paid for not only listens, but listens down to the last second. So like if you listen to a song all the way through, the artist gets paid, rather than if you get, let's say, within 30 seconds to the end of the song and you skip it, that artist doesn't get a payment or a portion of the payment, whatever it works out to, in most streaming services. So if that's the case, I would say artists like Bob Dylan and Led Zeppelin and any artist that pushes the song limit over, I want to say, I think I heard recently that like about 2.5 minutes is the target song length now with streaming services, because of how they make music and how people consume music and how they just want to hear the same thing over and over again and everything like that, that it creates a bad migration for like former artists now that we consume music primarily through streaming. I mean, when was the last time anyone really bought a CD? People still buy vinyls and stuff like that, but no one buys CDs anymore. You know what I mean? It's one of those things that fell through the gaps of modern progression, I guess you could say. And I would say artists like Bob Dylan, his songs are very long. You know what I mean? Most of his target audience probably doesn't listen to music on a music player. They listen to it old school ways, and that doesn't get him paid. So, I could see that he probably hasn't made money like any artist of his stature would have, you know what I mean, in his prime in the last like 5-10 years, probably.
Yeah, I could see that too. I definitely agree with that point.
So second news story I brought up here, SpaceX has now 2 spacecraft docked to the space station for the first time. Docked its Cargo Dragon capsule with the International Space Station. I guess it's just bringing experiments or something for the crew that it brought up.
And where is it going?
To the space station.
Oh, I got it. I thought you said an actual I'm sorry. Not that that's not a location, but.
So from now on, SpaceX expects to have at least one spacecraft constantly docked with the International Space Station as the company flies regular crew and cargo missions for NASA. So one of the things that's interesting about SpaceX too, and specifically Elon Musk, is his ability to like have these multiple companies that are all doing this breakthrough stuff. My concern with what's going on here is space is being commoditized slowly. You're going to have these private companies going up there. Like I wonder what the, just like with what we were talking about before with like marijuana becoming legal, you get these people that have money and influence, kind of controlling how all that stuff is happening. I mean, what do you think is going to happen in space? Do you think we see Starbucks on the moon, Biz? What do you think?
I'm going to be honest with you. My wife shared this thing with me that said something about, like one of these people that like claim to have come from the future. They said that like we colonized like Mars or whatever, and then something like wiped out all of the 200 million people that lived on Mars, and then we never tried to colonize it again. And ever since I heard that like a week and a half ago, I've lost all thought of like, could you imagine being somewhere in space and some catastrophic thing happens that like you're stranded in space, like you're so fucked. Like
you scream in space, man.
Let me pin us for just a second. So I discovered that of his 6 children, Bob Dylan's that is, 2 of them are in the entertainment industry. One of them is a film director and producer, Jesse Dylan. And Jacob Dylan is a musician. From what I could tell of his profile picture, it looks like he's a singer-songwriter who does vocals, guitar, piano, and bass. He's been active since like the late 80s, it looks like. So he's got a couple that brings a couple more theories, I guess you could say, to the table, but we can definitely curb it because we spent a long time on our first segment. But
how's that sour now? Is it still good?
Me?
Chris?
Oh.
It's pretty sudsy right now.
Still nice and foamy. So the SpaceX thing. So what's weird about it is I'm wondering how they're deciding. It doesn't say in here, but how they're deciding like who went up. Was that something that was paid, or that they were employees of the? Either of you guys know that?
I mean, I would assume that you're both. They probably were employees, and they probably were paid. I would assume that it's probably something like, from my understanding, most space stuff is like pre-planned, like years and years in advance. Like any sort of moves that we're still making were probably pre-planned, like back in 2016, maybe even 2015.
So
Just because of how many calculations you have to make when you're, you know what I mean, taking a rocket out of orbit. You know what I mean, like you gotta kind of pre-plan and check and triple check. So I think it takes like years and years for it to be planned. That's probably why even through a pandemic, something like space exploration hasn't paused.
it looks like this Sierra's 21 mission.
I have an interesting question though.
Wait, hold on. It's carrying a holiday menu, so they've got roasted turkey, macaroni and cheese. I wonder what is it? Just regular macaroni and cheese? I kind of want I want to try freeze-dried macaroni and cheese.
No, stop.
Cherry blueberry cobbler and shortbread cookies. All right. So what was the interesting thing you were going to say?
Why is it that we've explored so much of I guess not so much of space when you consider how much of it there is and how endless that's going to take. Why have we not explored the ocean more?
I think we are trying to, aren't we,
You
Chris?
I mean, like, my understanding is like there's certain parts of the oceans that we're just like, yeah, fuck it, we'll get to it, and then we've just literally never gotten to it yet. Like it's 2020, man. Like, what are we waiting on? Like,
Nah, dude, the pressure from the ocean will literally.
I know that. I know in certain parts. I know in certain parts that that's the case. But like
to the bottom of Lake Loch Ness, bro.
it's also like
It's true. Watch the Scooby-Doo movie, yo.
the darkness. Get out. The darkness down there is a factor too. I know, but you know, we figured out a way to get into space. We're talking about colonizing other planets. Like we haven't even discovered all of our planet yet. Like,
Yeah, but it's not as cool as a rocket.
Patrick, after the show, I've got to tell you about this crazy story I heard about on a podcast. It wasn't our podcast, but it's a crazy story. It'll take too long to explain now, but remind me and I'll share it with you. It was insane.
All right, excellent. So yeah, Chris, what do you think? So SpaceX, one, being owned by like a private company too. How do you feel about that? I mean, do you think that?
Well, Elon Musk is literally like, he's gonna be a supervillain, like sooner than later.
Gonna be, or he already is probably.
Probably, technically, already is a supervillain in the sense of
years in the making.
Yeah, he's like one of those ones where, like, from the outside, like he's Lex Luthor, where it's like from the outside to the people, everybody's like, wow, he's fucking amazing. This is crazy. But on the inside, he's like, I'm gonna make a fucking suit that can kill anything ever. And you're like, what the fuck, dude? He's like, what?
Just in case, everyone. It's not. I remember I smoked a blunt on a podcast. Remember, I'm cool.
That's what I was gonna say earlier. I was like, when you were talking about us going to space and like, you know, that who they were sending, I was like, it's actually nobody in that rocket. It's just Elon Musk in a fucking Iron Man fucking suit flying up there.
What was great?
The shit up. He's like, all right. We're good.
That initial launch was so funny too, that he decided to send up, you know, the guy in the Tesla, right? A Tesla car, and in a spacesuit. He just, I don't know what was in that spacesuit, right? People were commenting like he killed someone and put.
Really? I don't think I.
You never saw that? Yeah,
one of the maybe first. I heard about it, but I don't think I ever actually saw it.
The first payloads they did, Biz, was they sent a Tesla car with like this stuffed spacesuit buckled in to the car, and then they sent it like basically in a trajectory towards Mars, and I think at one point it actually passed Mars, and so you got some footage of it like going past Mars or whatever too. But he sent a Tesla, his first Tesla.
So like it's just gonna crash somewhere in space, and
he just kind of
years from now someone's gonna
out there
and be like, what is this?
Or
it was just tossed into space.
Or aliens in another galaxy or on another fucking planet, like on fucking Pluto or some shit. Pluto's gonna have heard the US or the fucking world decided it wasn't a fucking planet anymore. And it's gonna be pissed, and they're gonna be like, "Yo, you guys sent this fucking car? This is war." And they're gonna freeze us.
Well, I think what's funny about that too is that it's almost like so with like people littering, right? Like you have landfills and that sort of thing, and people are always like, "Oh, we're gonna run out of landfill space." And when you actually look at like the actual amount of land on the Earth, it would be almost impossible for us to actually run out of land to put trash, right? And when you look at space, right, space is even huger. Like the closest star is, I think, 8 light years from us, which means
Yeah.
it would take
The closest
something
star is
going
the
at the
sun.
speed of light 8 years to get there.
Right.
So it would be 100,000 years before that car would ever get anywhere outside of our, at least outside of our solar system and into somewhere else that potentially could be, habitable by something else. So maybe there's
So
that stance of like, yeah, screw it, we'll just throw our garbage out,
yeah, I was gonna
out
say, so
into the
so are
Dude,
you
space.
proposing we just litter space
Oh yeah. Well,
until
yeah,
that is kind of what's happening now. Have you ever seen
I
the
think we
the
should shoot
images
it
of
into the
space
sun.
garbage? Go ahead,
Say
Chris.
again?
Why haven't we shot it into the sun? Like, it's literally a giant inferno ball. Anything we throw at it would literally melt away and
Guys,
turn to shit before it got anywhere
I'm
close to.
I'm no scientist, but I heard that if the sun were to like fizzle out, that it would take like days or weeks or some asinine amount of time before it would get dark here.
Yeah.
That seems like
Like,
that can't be true if in the event that when the sun sets, it gets dark within an hour, like
I think there's a 8 minute time difference between when the light leaves the sun to when it gets to us. So it'd be like 8 minutes or something, or 8 seconds.
interesting,
I think
interesting.
it's minutes though. I think it's 8 minutes or something like that.
but I
Okay.
think it's probably more about how the sun would fizzle out. You know what I mean? It would go through stages where, because isn't there? Doesn't it become like a red star or something like that
Yeah, it
before?
gets bigger and it would like envelop the earth and we'd all be
Yeah.
destroyed
We would die.
before it goes out.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've
Before
watched
the
too many
fizzles out, well,
science shows, Chris, myself too. Just like bunch of Neil deGrasse Tyson.
I'm trying to
Exactly.
remember. Yeah, I think the sun would kill us before that shit. It's gonna kill us soon, like less than 1,000,000 years or some shit like that. I heard.
All right,
Is that down to an exact year, you think?
No, I didn't. I mean, they like estimated it. I remember hearing this when I was like still in high school.
Yeah, yeah.
all right. So, let's talk COVID vaccine, right? Because that's obviously in the news right now. I don't have a specific story about it. So it's going to come out probably soon. I saw something on the news today saying within 24 hours of approval, they could start basically giving the vaccine to people. Are you going to take it day one?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm scared of needles, so no.
Of course, I think us three would probably be last on the list anyway of people having the ability to get to it. So you said no?
No, I'm.
What
I'm
if it's not a
legit-
needle? What if it's like a nasal thing? Like the flu shot they used to give you those nose things.
See, I have asthma, so they can't give me the nasal thing.
How are we
So
going
they
to give it to you then?
needle. I don't know. If it's not, I don't know. Not the first because I don't trust. Okay, I'm not an anti-vaxxer or anything like that, but I'm not gonna trust the vaccine on the first round. I'm gonna let it go for like a week, couple weeks. You know what I mean? Like I'm not really the most at-risk individual. I have asthma. Don't get me wrong. I might die in that sense, but at the same
Unfortunately,
time,
I was gonna say, unfortunately, Chris and I are from the generation where we are cautious, but like willing to do it, I guess you could say. Like it's going to take a while for people like me and Chris, I would say, to jump into taking the vaccine, but we're all for the vaccine.
Well,
It's
here's
just like
yeah. I got nothing.
let's calm down. Like you know what I'm saying?
I think here's a good thing
It's created a weird culture, I guess.
a good thing and a strange way to look at it too, because they're giving the vaccine first to those highest at risk, healthcare workers, etc.
Right.
I agree.
If there is some sort of a problem with it, you saying, hey, I'm going to wait until it's safe. I mean, you're not
Until
going
it
to
wipes out all the healthcare workers.
I mean, you're not
like-
going to have a choice really, because you're not going to be able to get it for probably a couple of rounds of different, groups of people or whatever.
Right.
So
It's
there'll be
true,
a pretty
yeah.
good test bed by the time it's even available to you. But like the healthcare workers we're giving it to first. So if there is an issue with it, think about the havoc that it would cause if there was a problem, and you're giving it to the people that are front line.
Let me
That's
also
like
ask
the
you how
first-
how
the first
frequently
test bed.
do either of you go to the doctors, like just either for a physical or B just for the hell of it because like hey it's been a while or because I'm sick or what how often do you guys go?
It's been 10 years.
I do a physical probably like every 5 years, but then probably once a year I'll go just like for random.
Okay,
Hey,
so maybe once a year you go, but I would say because I go probably once every couple of years as well, usually. But like I I'm not gonna make a special trip to go get a vaccine. You know what I mean? If in the event I needed it, don't get me wrong. Like if they were like, hey, we called today and we realized that when we gave you your measles shot, 6, 8, whatever years they give your booster at for whatever, they're like, hey, we messed that up. We need you to come down. We need you to do. I would do that, most likely. But like, it just, hey, we got a vaccine for a sickness that you and no one has caught. Like, do you want to come get? Like, I don't get the flu shot every year for the same reason that like I've told you many times before Corona happened, like I'm kind of a germaphobe. Like I tend to wash my hands a lot. I tend to not want to be too close to people. If you're sick, like I wish you would have told me because I wouldn't have picked you up. And I don't mean to be rude, but like I don't want to get sick. Like, you know what I mean? I've always been that way. So like, um, I feel like I wouldn't rush to go get it, but mostly just because I'm not the sort of person that goes to doctors either. If you're the type to go a little more frequently, you're probably the type to get every year's flu vaccine and
I
would
normally,
also get those.
yeah, I normally don't do the flu vaccine, and I don't think
Yeah.
I've ever gotten the flu, to be honest. But this I might do just because I travel so much,
Well,
and I'd probably immediately go back to that as soon as it's available. So me just moving around from city to city, I'd be like one of those
I think
cockroaches spreading the stuff from
I
from
also I
state
also
to
think
state.
that the term will become a little bit more common too. Like, oh, did you have corona? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it, very few people actually contract influenza. You know what I mean? They get some sort of respiratory sickness. They call it the flu, or they go to the doctor. The doctor barely checks them over, and they're like, "Yep, it's the flu."
Right.
You know what I mean? But when it comes down to it, most people don't actually get influenza. You know what I mean? They just label it the flu. I feel like the Rona, as we'll call it. I feel like that will become a
Be wrong.
common thing too. That you'll get a cold 2, 3 years from now, and someone will be like, "Oh man, it was such a bad cold. It must have been Corona." Like, I feel like that's what's going to eventually happen because I mean, like, give it 100 years, and people are going to talk about this pandemic like we talk about the Spanish flu, and you know what I mean? Like, it's
What
one
were
of
you,
those things
you were
that
going to say
in
something,
time it'll
Chris?
pass.
Can we talk about how like people who are born in like the late 80s, the early 90s, can we talk about how much random crazy ass shit they have lived through? Like think about it, dude.
But
Okay, think about
I will
it.
say this too.
So many
'Cause
wars.
I actually mentioned to my kids too about, hey, you're gonna be able to say you lived through, like, because they're missing out on school. They're having a homeschool now
Mhm.
too. That whole generation is gonna have this memory of that this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, you guys had the luck of the draw. Although I think every generation has that too, Chris. But like, yeah, what did you
Oh
have?
yeah.
Yeah, no, oh, go ahead,
What did
Chris.
you
Go
have,
ahead first.
Chris?
Well, I mean, for like widespread, like crazy things that have happened. Like when you really think about it, from the year,
Recession, war. Yeah.
yeah, from the years of like I would say probably like 2000. We'll go with 2001 up until now. It's just been like a real roller coaster of crazy ass stuff, like a recession. We've lived through wars, like two or three wars, fucking a pandemic at this point. We saw the first black president come into play, and then we saw what could arguably described as the complete polar opposite
Occipit.
of,
Yep.
sorry, I didn't mean to say that. We saw literal like countries fall and like dictators fall in front of us and like different things like that. And like it's really like an astounding amount of events. Oh, we also saw the rise of social media, the
Yeah,
craze
as I
of
say,
the
don't
internet.
don't forget about the big one, the internet and entertainment and just
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
widespread of communication. Like technology exploded, you know what I mean, within our generation.
We watched it all happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
The
that's, you're going to be able to look back at all this too, and you can be one of those grandpas that said, "I used to carry a block of ice on my back up
yeah,
three,
I
that
was gonna
sort of
say
story."
something similar that Chris actually they say I forget I read this article about this guy that was born in the late 1890s, And by the time he had made it to a grandfather age, like in his 80s or whatever, he had lived through both of the world wars, through Vietnam, through the Korean War, through the generational change,
60s
through
movement.
like the segregation, through civil rights movement. Like he lived through so many different monumental things. I actually put it into perspective, and I was like, man, the internet happened to us, and we swear the world has changed. Like for millennials, like they literally lived through the world. This is someone born in the late 1800s that made it to the 1970s or 80s. They literally lived through the modernization of the world as we know it. Like, you know what I mean? They lived through
going from
every
like
major event.
horse and buggies to to every street being paved, which is
Right.
pretty crazy. And I think every generation has that too, which I don't get. I think I'm Generation X, but I tend to be in the camp of like, I don't think any generation is like either worse off or
Right.
better off than any other generation. I mean, everyone's
What
got
year
their
were you
stuff.
born, Patrick?
And you'd get bored, I think, Chris, if it wasn't such a roller coaster, right? You don't want it to be all vanilla and beige, right? Boring.
Yeah,
You just
I don't know.
go to
I
your
could
9 to
be
5
simple.
every day, you know?
I feel like I could be like a farmer or something. I could be simple. Wake
You're
up
like,
and
I
tell
just
my
want to
kids
break.
all the day.
I just want to break for once in my life.
I just need to
God.
catch some of my fish and cut them raw, roll it into some sushi, and call it an evening on this farm of
I need
mine.
to ferment it with rice, man. By the way, okay, can I just make one statement? Because
Yeah.
we're on this and we're talking. Sushi came up. The word sushi does not refer to fish or in any sense. It only refers to rice seasoned with vinegar. Okay, I just want everyone to
Interesting.
know that
Interesting.
it's a
Yeah,
common conception.
So that's what's like a pet. Actually, let's end the segment here, the news segment. This is our new news segment, Biz's News Corner. We're gonna name it after
I
Biz.
didn't know that it was going to be mine. We'll have to come up with a much better name. I'm known for having catchy names. We definitely can't call
Okay.
it that.
All right, we'll come up with something. Biz's News Corner. Write into us, infiltrateradio@gmail.com if you liked it.
Did you guys ever cover
What happened to the music? Hold on.
Brought it in. Didn't you hear it? Didn't you hear the music?
A little bit, but it was like faded in.
Oh,
Let's
dude,
hear it
come
one more
on.
time
All right, yeah.
before we move on. All right, Chris. Sorry.
And now Patrick with the weather.
Sorry, Chris, you were about to say something too. So what's like your biggest thing with sushi, pet peeve or like a customer?
My biggest pet peeves. Oh, I got a lot of them. But I don't want to be nitpicky. It's the worst thing.
No,
One
it's
thing
fun. I think it's fun.
is if you don't know what you want and you don't know what you're looking for, and I ask you, do you need help? I'm only asking if you need help. I don't give a shit about anything. Anything. I just want to know what the fuck you came for, man. And I'm gonna help you find that, and I'm gonna get you what you fucking need, and I'm gonna get your ass out of here because I don't want to talk to you anymore.
We are not friends.
All right, let's
Not-
let's ask this, Chris. So what's your favorite sushi to make, and then what's your least favorite? I know you've probably got those.
My singular favorite thing I order every time I go out to get sushi is a hamachi and scallion roll. Hamachi is yellowtail, which is a type of tuna. Personally, I like it with a big old fat dab of wasabi and some ponzu sauce. I don't necessarily with soy sauce. It's dope, but ponzu is like a citrus soy. So they, a lot of the time it'll be like lime or lemon or some orange, pineapple, any type of citrus can be added to it.
Yeah.
But that is my absolute favorite. My favorite type of nigiri, which is fish over rice, would probably be the same thing. Hamachi, scallion. But when you go and you get it from like a regular like sushi bar, you'll typically, depending on what chef, they'll do a little dab of wasabi underneath, and that'll help keep the fish stuck. And then what you want to do is you want to dip it, and you want to. Pardon me, I don't have coronavirus. If you want to dip it and you want to just shake it a little bit, you don't want an excessive amount of soy. The soy is really just there to add that umami, that nice salt flavor.
Hmm.
So when people like, I'll watch a lot of people eat sushi and it's kind of gross. They'll take their soy sauce packet and they'll pour it over the rolls or the fish. You don't want to do that because you're unbalancing all of the flavors at play here. What you really want to do is, as you go through, try and get yourself a nice, like, a lot of the time, if you're eating nigiri, which is the fish over rice, again, you're going to want to do it from like a side profile, like dip and then eat. So that way you get a little bit of soy on each bite, but you also get the rest of the things that are at play, the flavors of the fish, the flavors of whatever they're garnished with, the flavors of that rice. The
Is there
rice
like
is
a
the most important
is
part.
there like a pamphlet you can go through and like learn the proper way to fuck with sushi? Like,
You can just call me and we'll go out and eat sushi and we'll
Yeah,
figure it out.
don't give out your phone number on this show. You'll get all sorts of weird
that's
calls.
'Don't
585.
call my girlfriend. Will kill everybody, including. She's a nice
What's
lady, but she does not. She does not.
I don't play that game.
Yep, she don't play that.
what's the worst sushi to make? What's your least favorite to make?
Personally, I
even if
really
you
don't
like it.
I don't really have one that I hate the most. What I least like is people who don't want to go after raw, I guess is the best way to describe it. Like people
when
who
they're
don't
when they're
want raw
strictly
fish.
cooked.
Yeah. Anyone who just eats cooked sushi all the time. Don't get me wrong, cooked sushi is awesome. But the raw fish is really like a wonderful thing, and it's got a lot of flavors at play, and there's a lot of great stuff. And you can really help your palate expand and experience some flavors that you're not going to find in a cooked roll or a vegetable roll.
Right,
Don't
right.
get me wrong, I support anyone who's a vegetarian or a pescatarian in that sense. I mean, pescatarian doesn't actually matter. So
Yeah,
let
so
me
pescatarian. I've had
say
raw,
that.
like raw salmon and shit like that in sushi
Yeah,
before.
that's okay for you, right?
Yeah,
I think that it's just the thought of it for some people. Like people have this aversion to certain things, like pickles, or people have all sorts of weird things. Like it's more in their mind, or I guess maybe from past experiences with something that
Yeah.
caused them to not go that route. And the raw fish thing in particular, I think, especially to an American palate, is like, why would you eat it raw?
Well,
If especially if you grew up in like. Rural America where you're eating McDonald's and
Right.
well,
hamburgers
I've
and stuff
also
like that.
a lot of people that I've asked when they're like, dude, when I was younger, I heard that they make sushi out of like certain types of fish that if it's sitting out just a little bit too long, it's like poisonous and you'll die. Like, there's a lot of like preconceived like bullshit about it. You know what I mean? Obviously, in any food, mayonnaise is left out too long. Mayonnaise is in everything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things that I think that people like paint a dark picture for literally no reason, and then people are
Well,
just scared to try it because they're, you know, they have no culture. Really, was what it comes down to, I guess, in the harshest way possible.
Yeah,
can
you
I
could have just
dispel
said that. You could just say they haven't had the experience. You didn't have to call them uncultured swine.
Uncultured swines. I knew you were gonna say.
Sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
No. I'm just. Can I dispel like a few
Yeah.
common misconceptions? I guess is the best way to put it.
Please do.
So a majority of the fish that you will eat raw within the United States goes through not only a process of bacterial destruction to ensure that bacteria is not going to grow in this item and kill somebody, which is 9 times out of 10 the biggest issue you have with foodborne illness. It's always bacteria growth. That's our big issue. You know what I mean? So serious bacterial, all that kind of stuff. But what you got to understand is another level to it, and depending where people get their fish from, and that too, a lot of it ends up being with the fish's diet. A lot of people have a common misconception that wild caught fish is better than farm raised fish. It's not always that issue. It's not always that thing. So for me, example, and I'm not going to name anybody because at the end of the day, I don't want to tarnish anybody's reputation or anything like that. And like I said before, a majority of fish that enters the United States has to go through a rigorous parasite destruction to ensure that it's even allowed, so that, you know, people aren't getting these crazy ass diseases from China, Japan, you know, other places around the world.
Now, I gotta ask though, are you talking about like, because when you can go to like your local grocery store and get, well, not any grocery store, but if you live in the Northeast and you have access to like a Wegmans or a Tops, you can ask them for specific like sushi grade raw fish. Are you talking about that, or are you talking about just any old raw fish that you're buying, like the salmon
Well,
that's like frozen
both.
there? You're talking like anything's
I'm
going
talking
through
about
this,
both.
or
I'm talking about both.
okay,
So regular fish has to go through a regular parasite destruction to, you know, obviously ensure that there's not certain foodborne illnesses going on.
right, right,
But sushi grade fish in itself goes through a much more rigorous process, and that's more what I'm referring to.
okay,
A lot of, from my experience, the stuff goes through a super freezing process a lot of the time, and that will help to actually kill off a lot of the parasites. Because when you deal with wild caught fish in any regard, you can't. It's wild. You know what I mean? It's eating a bunch of random shit. It's
right.
eating garbage off the ocean floor, whatever the fuck's down there. It's
All
eating it.
this, all the stuff we're throwing in the fucking,
Yeah,
all the pollutants we're putting out there too.
it's parasites. And I can even attest to it myself, where I have pulled out more than a few worms, some little clear guys, and you're just looking at them like, holy fuck. And don't get me wrong, they're dead. They're totally dead, and it's safe to eat. The parasite is gone. But at the same time, it's one of those things where it's a reality. Like
I don't think you're making it better for people who want to eat raw
Yeah,
food.
but honestly, at the end of the day, I mean, like, this is exactly the point that I'm making. People bring the awareness of how sushi's made before you ever get to taste it. If someone brought to your attention that pigs are run through slaughterhouses and cows are mistreated and chickens get their heads cut off and you're brutalizing it before you ever taste it, people are gonna, I feel like that's why so many people have switched to the whole vegan and vegetarianism lifestyles, is because like you're taught from an earlier age, before you develop, I guess you could say, the appreciation for the health benefits to eating certain types of meats in regulation. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, like I don't even know where I'm going with this necessarily, other than to say that like I think that people set the standard to be like sushi's raw, so it's therefore potentially bad for you, it's disease, so have it cooked or don't have it at all.
But here's the thing, is it's that process of parasite destruction in its own. They're in there, but they're dead. They don't exist. It's not that they don't exist.
Yeah,
They
and
don't. They're not alive anymore. They're not going to harm you, and you got to understand that that same process goes through what you regularly eat. Your meats, your poultry, your pork, everything like
yeah,
that. Your
I think me and Patrick brought up before that like there's a certain amount of like hair and like bodily fluids that are allowed to go into milk and certain foods. You know what I mean? Like
oh,
I
that's
don't.
what I mean.
what
Like
is a certain amount of
you
rat in
you
every
you
hot
bring
dog?
you bring awareness to that sort of thing before someone drinks milk, and it's gonna deter them from drinking milk. You teach someone how
Not
orange juice is
really.
made, and someone's not gonna want to drink orange juice. You know what I mean? It's just like that. It's just that that's why I say that they're not cultured, because like when it comes down to it, America's the best. If you don't like a burger, you're un-American. You know what I mean? You kind of develop this basic palette of what, America's flavors are, and a lot of people are like not willing to be like, well, this is supposed to be served raw, or it's supposed to be served cold, or it's supposed to be served hot. Like it
But
blows people's mind when you like serve a cold pasta or like a cold soup. It's like, what is this? Like,
dude, honestly, America's my favorite style of cooking because it's all styles of cooking. It's a melting pot. It
right,
can be
right, right.
anything. It can be anything, and
No, I agree. American style food is
really like.
is my jump off. Don't get me wrong either. I love it to death. I'm
Well,
just more or less advocating for the conversation.
here's the coolest thing is like right now in like Rochester specifically, and like overall, we're kind of getting like a cool renaissance of like food in the sense of like
Big time. I agree.
through the sense of media and like idea sharing and culture sharing and like people just immigrating and different things like that, we really are experiencing like one of the golden eras of like cooking, dude. Not to think about it, but I mean 200, 300 years ago, you couldn't go out to a restaurant and experience fucking Jim down the street's grandma's fucking fried chicken recipe.
Or
Nowadays, you can literally go do that, and you're like, "Holy shit!" Jim's grandma was going wild, dude. This is insanity, and it's really
Well,
it's a mind blowing
what
like time frame to
one of the
experience.
things that's sad to see too is with all what's going on right now is I mean, people are even protesting out. I think in California right now, because like these little places that are doing that, right, like making these specialty things are having trouble staying afloat in all this. So I've been making a conscious effort if I'm going to order out to try and order from some place that's local and
yeah,
small, and I urge anyone listening to kind of do the same thing, because those companies or those companies, those places are kind of mom and pop shops that are, kind of barely hanging on to begin with. And I think this whole
and
thing is for them to come out of it at the end, and for us all to have that resource that we take for granted kind of now too. Like, oh, this stuff will always be around. Like, those places may close at the end of all this.
I think
Um,
I want to speak up for anyone who has any sort of limited diet, anyone who eats kosher or halal or vegetarian or vegan. If you grew up and let's say you're between, I don't know, 27 and 35, you spent your youth, if you've had this diet for, most of your life, you spent your youth not being able to go to restaurants or having to have one option at the restaurant. If you don't support the local businesses that have this plethora of options for you, you run the risk of not being able to eat at most restaurants like it was in the 90s, where there was maybe one restaurant that would service you, or there was one option on the restaurant menu that would service you, or what have you. You know what I mean? Like, you really got to go to the places that you love that are local, because they won't have the backing or the existence that a big place would. Don't stop going to Applebee's through the pandemic. Like, fuck Applebee's, dude.
What a
Like,
pizza wizard!
all right, so we are coming up almost on an hour and a half here. So
yes, sir.
um, I'd like to thank you, Chris, for coming on the show today. And I'm going to say this: so the first time we're able to kind of get out and throw a big party and get semi back to normal, where I could throw a party, I'm going to hire you, Chris, to come out, and we're going to do a sushi bar.
All
Um,
right,
and you can teach while maybe we'll do a sushi class, and we'll sell some tickets to it. How about that? Or we can even do it. We'll
dude,
do
that would be wonderful. Let me know, please. I
yeah.
would more than willing to do that.
Maybe what we can even do is down the line, maybe on the podcast, you can do a little sushi demo, a couple of rolls or something at your house there, and just show people how it's done. We'll do a little cooking
Yeah,
segment too, Biz.
let
Nice,
me
nice.
know.
It sounds great.
I can definitely do, yeah, more than a few things. That'd be awesome.
All right, but Chris, thanks. Anything you want to kind of pimp out in terms of projects you got going on, things you want people to know about, if you want someone to follow you, anything like that?
Well, if you guys want to follow me, I don't really do much but post bullshit on my Instagram, but it's at Flick That Clitoris. Um, FlickThatKleetorus. If I'm gonna give shout outs, I'm gonna give a couple shout outs to a couple of my homies. They run a few local businesses. Check out Knucklehead Brewing in Webster, New York, just outside of Rochester. It's a suburb. Check out Pizza Wizard Rock. Those are my homies right
So
there.
hey, yeah. So I'm gonna stop you there because I've been meaning to go check out their Detroit style pizza.
Do
Um,
it.
so what do they? They're not doing delivery, right? It's only pickup. Is that
It's
accurate?
only pickup. They're across from, if you're looking for them, they're on South Clinton on the right side if you're heading towards downtown. Um, right across from where like the Cub Room and McCann's Meats is.
Okay.
They're right next to Seward Spices.
All right. So and again,
But
that's
definitely check them
Rochester,
out
New
too.
York, for anyone to listening. But Pizza
Yep.
Wizard, right? So yeah,
Yep.
check them out too because they started this. They started their business, or at least opened kind of during this whole thing, right?
Yeah, dude, definitely. They're fucking going ham. Same
Uh,
thing with Knucklehead, dude. They just expanded their whole patio and everything. They're a full bar and kitchen now. One of their head chef is one of my good friends, Josh Doomer. He's a really good dude. He really knows his things. He culinary graduate from Johnson, Wales.
Nice.
Guy really knows what he's doing when it comes to food. Check it out. They got a crazy ass menu. You should 110%. Great beer, great environment, great people.
All right. It sounded like you were going to go on to someone else too to mention. I'll let you all the local businesses you want to mention. I'm game for it.
Oh, dude. I mean, you guys have had him on here. Go check out Croco, fucking skate shop in Rochester, New York.
Oh yeah.
If it wasn't for Croco, we wouldn't have gotten the Rock City skate park built. And I'm really super happy that it's here. I know we didn't really touch on it, but I just want to mention that. Shout outs to Friends of Rock City Skate Park and all of those guys doing everything like that. That everything they're doing for Rochester right now is dope.
Yeah, big ups to Golden Road.
Yeah, Johnny we had on a while back too, and then
fuck, dude, I never even.
Yeah,
dude,
we had Aaron on. I mean, we've done whole episodes, Chris. So on them, so people definitely are aware that they're out there. So what's cool about that skate park too is I think this is the perfect time. I mean, hopefully it's able to go for a while, like because it doesn't shut down in the fall or at the end of fall, right? It's like until it snows, pretty much. Is that the gist?
Right now, because of COVID restrictions, it's shut down. It's not due to people not wearing masks there, like the misconception has. There's a lot of people who have that idea. It's just simply due to the fact that, you know, of where Rochester's been moved and everything like that.
Yep.
But I do believe once the summer rolls around or the spring, it'll probably be back open. And during the winter, it is open. The lights are on, I believe, until 10 in the winter, and then in the summer they're on until 11. Wow. So I'm sure once that the COVID restrictions and everything go back down, if we get it back down, it'll probably open back up and there'll be no issue. But
yeah, it's a super cool spot too, like right where it is, right under the bridge, right on the river there. Like see the water from the skate park. I've got to go down there. I mean, I don't really skate anymore, but I'd go down there and just hang out or whatever and check out people skating and stuff.
It's an awesome spot.
Maybe really I'll see Aaron down there. So, yeah, all those local businesses, anyone in Rochester, you know, give your money to them, and hopefully, you know, like I said, I think we're kind of taken for granted, especially with all the delivery services that are out there now too, where you just get stuff delivered to your house. You don't realize what's going on there and that they're losing out on their bar business and their dine-in business and all that other stuff, and they're solely, you know, surviving off of what's coming in via orders like that or pickup. So, you know, I hope that us taking it for granted can continue to happen after all of this, that they all stay afloat and we're able to kind of have this huge, you know, cornucopia, if you will, of like that big words biz.
Oh yeah.
In Rochester and every other city, you know, even in the bigger cities, some places are struggling. So hopefully this will be all over soon, and we'll have chefs like Chris starting new services, making sushi at your house delivered. You know, $1,000 a session. But yeah, I hope that everyone helps support their local stuff, especially, you know, now at the tail end of this. They definitely need our help. So thank you everyone for listening. Chris, thanks man for coming on. We'll have to do that. We'll do like a little sushi lesson on a future episode and teach people how to make your favorite there.
Yeah, man, that'd be awesome. Let me know. I'm always available.
All right, so thank you everyone for listening. Again, any of the links we post, please click on them. Go buy something through the Amazon links. Not only are they, do you get stuff when you purchase it through it, but at the normal price, we get a little percentage of every sale that happens when you click through on the links that we provide. So go ahead and do that. Thank you for listening. Again, this is episode 43. That was Chris Klee. I'm Patrick Joanne.
And I'm Bizzle Chance.
And we will talk to you guys next week.
Infiltrate Radio.